Come on in. How you doing? His royal orangeness. Oh my god. Mm. All right. Boop, boop.
Happy hour. Wipe that smirk off your face. Doing one job doesn't make us pals. Got it? You better take this job. I'd say it's been an honor to work with you, but it would be a lie. Fine, take a fucking look. A sale is a sale, even if it is to a scumbag like you.
You don't know me. Boom. Ba 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 ba.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Here's your meme of the day, brought to you by FiveMind.com. Now, you know, sometimes you need to just know how to take the L, and humility goes a long way. But of course, humility is just something the Democrat Party does not possess. We've learned that, especially over the last 10 years. No, they're the party of doubling down no matter what. Right? Even though some Democrats voted to reopen the party as a whole, and party leadership vows to continue on with the sabotage. And of course, we saw it throughout the debate as Democrats were clearly losing on the issue. Time after time after time, they never accepted defeat and moved on. No, they just kept moving the goalposts, and here we go again, more goalposts shifting. And it's even more disgraceful after they've now face-planted on the shutdown issue, and now as Obamacare is in the spotlight and on the chopping block, it seems, they're refusing to do what rational people would do, which is debate the actual ideas, have a conversation, try to find solutions to this failed Obamacare policy. But no, instead, it's nothing but excuses and moving on to the latest emotional talking point. Same frickin' script every single time, emotional bait, fog the facts, create a villain, create a victim, anything but actually defending the Affordable Care Act on the merits. And now their latest little piece of rhetoric is targeting the billions and billion-dollar currency swap deal in Argentina. The Democrats have identified their talking point, and it's pretty much as dumb as you could possibly imagine. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so here's the latest talking point, and actually I think they're even pushing a bill now. They want to take the $40 billion that's being sent to Argentina, and why not use that for Obamacare?
So my amendment tonight would redirect that $40 billion bailout from Argentina. It would redirect the money that Trump said wouldn't benefit the American people. We would use those funds to extend the advanced premium tax credits for 2 years. Now, I'm like other people on this dais. I come from humble beginnings. I don't know what $40 billion looks like. I don't know what $1 million looks like. Neither do most of my constituents. Well, $40 billion that they use to bail out Argentina covers health care under the advanced premium tax credits for 2 years. This is an investment in the health and economic security of the American people. It's a far better use of taxpayer dollars than sending billions overseas.
You know, it's funny because it's almost like an America First argument. Like, why are we funding foreign wars? Why send money to Israel and Taiwan and all these leftist NGO programs across the country when you could take care of people domestically? And, you know, I think it's a great argument in a lot of cases. But But this ain't one of them. This is possibly the one dumbest angle they could have taken. You know, it would have been a whole lot more based if they said no money for Israel's war, no more endless funding for Ukraine and their war, and let's bring the money back home to, I don't know, reduce taxes. Productive. No, that's not what this is. This is typical Democrat propaganda, because of course, they're counting on people to not know what the hell's going on. They're counting on ignorance, as per usual. They're building a false premise, just like they did with the funding for the ballroom talking point, right? Donald Trump is funding a ballroom with your taxpayer dollars. That was the implication. We can afford a fancy ballroom, but we don't have cash for funding SNAP for the people who need it. Well, it's basically the same thing. The implication that this is a blank check for Argentina, just spending over money blindly, and rather instead it should go to subsidizing the garbage can known as Obamacare, well, it's an utterly ridiculous premise. Here are the facts.
Amid this discussion of costs and prices and affordability, how does a $20 billion bailout of Argentina help Americans? You're the president's point person on that. Can you explain to those here who are including America's farmers, why the United States is helping out Argentina?
Well, do you know what a swap line is?
It's currency swap, yes.
Yes, but what is that?
You're the Treasury Secretary.
Yes, but why would you call it a bailout?
That is how...
In most bailouts, you don't make money. The U.S. government made money. We used our financial balance sheet to stabilize the government. One of our great allies in Latin America, during an election, the president there won in a landslide. The government's going to make money, and I would rather use peace through economic strength than have to be shooting at narco boats coming offshore if the government collapsed. We have a generational opportunity in Latin America to create allies. We just saw an election in Bolivia. We're probably going to see an election in Colombia. We've seen them in Ecuador. We're going to see them in Chile. So by stabilizing the economy there and making a profit, then that's a very good deal for the American people. And there's a lot we could have been doing for American farmers, but Democrats closed the government.
Exactly. They're counting on people not knowing the difference between a grant, a loan, or a currency swap. This is a structured financial deal. And guess what? The administration's making a profit on it. But of course, it's the exact same play. Muddy the facts, and then build an entire outrage campaign, and hope people are stupid enough to fall for it. And really, what a dumb argument, especially in defense of Obamacare. You know, it's like telling your parents, listen,
You
Mom and
last
Dad, I
minute
know you guys
types
are
just
spending
piss me off.
tens of thousands of dollars
Always
every year
running
sending me
late,
to private
never
school.
prepared.
But how about I
Joel's
go to
armor.
public school and we redirect
My
those
rounds
funds
pierced that
so that I
joke.
could have an allowance to smoke weed and play video games throughout the entire year with that budget. I would even be able to afford endless Costco Cheetos. That's basically the argument. It's stupid. It's irresponsible. It's idiotic. And if we're talking about redirecting of funds, I think the argument only works in the opposite direction. How about redirecting all the money that's being funneled into the ACA and other failed Democrat programs that aren't delivering real results and are doing so at an extremely high cost, not to mention all the fraud and bad actors that are taking advantage? How about redirect that money somewhere productive? How about
hope
putting
you
that
put
money
this
back
to
in the
good
hands of the
use.
people
Kill
and
some
empowering the consumer
Zedheads.
to make their own
Or
decisions? You know,
some of
Democrats
those
want you to
White
believe that
River
now they're fiscal
freak
hawks
shows.
targeting this Argentina money, but they want to take money from a productive source where the administration's making money, generating money for the taxpayer, and spend it on what? Billions of dollars in subsidies for insurance companies and big pharma? Freaking idiotic. But yes, now the money being sent to Argentina is the latest point of outrage and political leverage that the left is attempting to weaponize, clearly. And of course, it's obvious why they're doing it, right? It's all the false promises. It's the fact that they're in the impossible position right now of defending Obamacare. I mean, it's not exactly going well.
Going to hear horrible stories. People are not going to be able to afford their insurance. I don't think even with subsidies they're going to be able to afford the premiums that are hiking up 100, 200, 300%.
Wasn't Obamacare supposed to fix
When
that?
people, no, well, not without the universal. I mean, there's
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, but
Affordable was the first
listen,
word.
The Republicans have been chipping away at the ACA, and I think this is going to be the death of the ACA. But it's also going to be the death of some Americans who don't go get screenings, who don't get diagnosed early enough in order to get treatment, who go in and instead of being stage 1 cancer are going to be stage 4 cancer. And we're going to hear horrible stories because Americans are going to choose to drop health insurance that they cannot afford. And we as a country have got to figure this issue out.
Basically admitting that Obamacare is a failure and is likely to collapse, but oh, what about the peoples? Billions of peoples will die. Well, not if you actually find a solution to the damn program. Subsidizing it is not a solution. That's a band-aid fix. Obamacare did not deliver on its core promises. Barack Obama said that premiums made healthcare more affordable and accessible to everyone. But instead, it's done the exact opposite. It's created a healthcare cartel where insurance companies are fighting over wazoo. And the way you fix that is actually quite simple. Again, healthcare vouchers for people who legitimately need it and qualify for the program. It's exactly like more options, more companies, and those companies fighting to attain customers with aggressive pricing and good services rather than getting a free path towards massive profits through government corruption and connections and lobbying. And obviously that's what's going on, right? The Democrats are losing the argument, and so they're continuing to move the goalposts. Anything but admitting the truth. There's constant manipulations and propaganda, dishonest talking points. And now the funds going to Argentina is just the latest scapegoat. But you gotta hold their feet to the fire. Do not let them run away from the Obamacare failures, because the people want real healthcare reforms, not more taxpayer subsidies. Not more of the same old, more holding together a corrupt, broken system. And I'm pretty sure if people were informed, if people were paying attention to the debate, they would all come to that conclusion. And clearly the Democrats' strategy is to keep people ignorant, keep them emotional, and so we gotta work like hell to make people snap out of it. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
It's rare that I can't yap up a wacky intro, but learning about this menace has left me stunned. I just saw this video from EWU Body Cams about this guy that would hide cameras in like every bathroom on the planet, it seemed like. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got hidden cameras in my own porcelain throne territory there. Like he's infiltrated my domain and is filming me.
I'm calling because we just received an anonymous tip that someone has a camera in our employee bathroom and is uploading videos online.
You still haven't raised my charges. What's our charges? You're not supposed to be judgmental to anybody's crimes, by the way.
What the hell is even that? You're not supposed to be judgmental of crimes? I don't remember hearing that in the Miranda rights. I can't even really imagine that. Like, you show up to a murder scene, you catch the suspect.
During my video on Hassan Piker's shock collar escapades, I mentioned that he was still being dogged by the drama 1 month later, while he was streaming from his New York City hotel room, and viewers kept bringing it up. It turns out the reason that Hassan was in New York City was to attend the public victory of one Zohran Mamdani, the new mayor of the Big Apple. If you saw that viral clip of Hassan proclaiming that America should have lost the Cold War to the Soviet Union, yeah, that came from that event.
What do you think it means that this guy ran up a socialism?
Yeah, I think we are in the heart of the imperial core. Defeated the U.S. dollar, unfortunately. And the reality of the matter is, there's a lot of in the United States of America.
Now, if you don't know who Zohran Mamdani is, here's the of New York City, obviously. He's a far-left member of the Democratic Party. He's also a member of the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, the largest left-wing socialist organization in the United States. He's of Indian descent, though he was born in Uganda. His family moved to New York when he was 7 years old, back in 1998, though he didn't become an American citizen until 2018. He holds dual American and Ugandan citizenship. Throughout his youth, he was involved in left-wing activism. He co-founded his university's Students for Justice in Palestine chapter, and he graduated with a bachelor's degree in Africana Studies in 2014. Beginning in 2016, he found limited and his music often touched on themes of race and colonialism. In 2017, he joined the DSA, primarily due to that organization's pro-Palestine stance, and he began to work as a staffer on various local he was elected to the New York State Assembly, and he successfully defended his seat in 2002 and 2004. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that Mamdani is a far more left-wing than I'm personally comfortable with. I think socialism is ultimately destructive to any economy and leads on in the other direction and becoming a Palestine simp is also not the way to go. There are many good faith criticisms of Mamdani's practice, a lot of which were made by some of his detractors during the New York race. For example, I personally think it's terrible that Mamdani uses the phrase globalize the intifada. The word intifada is Arabic for shaking off, and it refers to popular uprising and rebellion. In this context, it means a Palestinian revolution against Israel. The call to globalize the intifada is a call to make the Palestinian resistance against the Israeli state not a regional conflict, but a global one. Some people absolutely use this slogan as just a basic call for Palestinian support, but others use it to refer to the idea that all Jews worldwide must be fought in order for Palestine to which can be used somewhat innocently, but is also commonly a dog whistle for more radical beliefs. I have serious problems with that. In fact, J.D. Vance, when we hear it's even more obvious. What makes this worse is that Mamdani seems to have no problem associating with the more radical elements pushing the slogan, or employing staffers who are completely alright with committing radical actions to achieve this goal.
The true believer knows that none of this is in vain, that this is all jihad, that this is all ibadah, and that this is all counted for by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, the conversation of doxing, the conversation of getting arrested, I think it's time for Muslims to start to say, alright, so what? Do what you want. I'm gonna do what I gotta do, because it's about time to do that. And I know everybody has their own families and everything. Just a question. We don't want to get doxxed, and we don't want to get suspended, and we don't want to get arrested. How gangsta are you? That's just my question. How much are you willing to do it?
Of course, beyond the radical Islam-Palestine stuff, there's also the radical socialist stuff. Back in 2021, he spoke at a DSA event, where he made it quite clear that his end goal is seizing the means of production.
What the purpose is about this entire project, it's not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, every which opportunity that they are given. We have to continue to elect more socialists, and we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment.
Of course, as mayor of New York City, he can't actually seize the means of production. The position of mayor doesn't have nearly enough power to do that. So, part of his campaign platform was to basically tax pricier areas of the city more, which obviously means taxing richer people more, as well as various rent control policies to help poorer residents. Now, I did a video on why rent control doesn't work like 4 years ago. One big study on rent control in the 90s. It showed that rent control did help alleviate rising rent in the short term, but the people who lived in rent-controlled units were less likely to move out even if they had a good reason to, which caused a whole bunch of downstream problems. More expensive or poor allocation of various unit types due to people to actually move out of what they had. I personally think it's pretty telling that Mamdani, or at least somebody on his team, thought it was a good idea to characterize this policy as taxing white neighborhoods. Now, he's not actually taxing race, he's taxing base taxes. More white people in the infrastructure, so fair enough. But the fact that they toss white in the description of this policy shows that, at least for the far left, racial identitarianism still has a grip on their thinking. In fact, housing has been a focus of Mamdani's for a long time now. Student days...
Faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
To his DSA spokesman days,
we'll have to go beyond the market. We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership. We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing, ending subsidies for luxury housing development and using our wealth to build beautiful, high-quality social projects that offer opportunities to everyone. We won't decommodify housing overnight, but we know what we have to do.
To his candidate days.
أنا كعمدة رح جمد الإيجارات لأكثر من 2,000,000 شخص تخلي الغرفات حية للجامعة وأضمن رعاية الأطفال كاملة لكل العائلة.
ويمكن ما فيني أتعمد إنه الكنافة النابلسية بالصنع أفضل بس قواعدكم كثيرة تسهل عليكم حياتكم صغيرة وتدفعوا إيجاركم وتبنوا مستقبلكم في مدينة نيويورك.
He's nothing if not consistent. Of course, there are actual problems with decommodifying housing. When the government controls housing, you often get those that nobody actually owns them. New developments tend to stagnate due to a lack of capital investment. If you've been watching my channel for a few years now, you already know all of the good economic anti-socialist arguments. Media op-eds on how it's not actually socialism, guys, it's just treating people better. Of course. But probably the most immediately destructive thing that Mamdani can actually do with the powers of this office is implement a soft-on-crime agenda. Back during the height of the George Floyd riots, Mamdani joined the chorus of leftists demanding the police be defunded. Of course, 5 years later, he's since walked that nonsense back. And good, considering that the idea is no longer popular, and those locations that actually tried it ended up having a complete shit show on their hands. Now, the DSA as an organization still wants to abolish what it calls the criminalization of working class survivors, by which they mean abolishing the police and the prisons. But just because the DSA says it, doesn't mean that Mamdani has to agree with it. In fact, he seems to have a completely new angle to tackle New York's crime problems. Precogs.
Public safety is created by stable homes, good paying work, and well-resourced. Addressing these issues are at the core of our campaign. But we must also aggressively pursue evidence-based strategies that prevent violence and crime before they occur.
That's right, we're going for Minority Report here. Okay, real talk. His plan is not to defund, but de-emphasize the police, and tackle crime by first tackling poverty, second by placing trained and qualified crisis workers on public transit and other public areas, and third, only relying on police as a last resort. You know what? I recall this exact debate raging back during the 2021 Twitch poll era, where retards like Vosh were saying that if a person was going schizo, a social worker and not a police officer should be the first responder. And those debates pretty quickly unearthed the problem with that approach. Sometimes the schizo person in question, even if he's innocent and it's not his fault, he might be uncontrollably violent anyway, and he has to be stopped with force first, and his mental issues treated second. Life isn't like an RPG, where a high enough persuasion skill can talk anybody down from anything. Sometimes you do just need the cops there. Additionally, Mamdani just kind of sounds like he views reducing the number of criminals as a priority good, no matter what. Like, listen to this.
The jail population of Rikers has increased since Eric Adams has come into office by more than 1,000 additional incarcerated New Yorkers. And what is quite staggering to me is that we know that we can reduce that jail population to an article about a number of proposals that could reduce it to 3,700. And some of this also just has to look at the average stay on Rikers in the 90s was 50. There are more than 1,500.
I think we all agree. If there were less people in prison because there were less criminals, that's pretty good. But releasing people from prison, simply to say that you managed to is actually pretty bad. It's better for prison numbers to be high and everyone in there actually deserves to be there than it is for prison numbers to be artificially low because you're just letting the guilty go. In case it's not clear yet, I don't like Mamdani. He's way too far left for me, and the majority of his ideas would absolutely be destructive. The only saving grace is that, as New York City mayor, he actually can't really implement most of this stuff, at least not unilaterally. Now, I did see a lot of right-wingers go over all these various critiques of Mamdani, but you want to know what I saw the right-wingers cover the most? It wasn't his activist history, or his connections to radical Islamists, or his shitty socialist ideas. It was the fact that he did that one ad spot where he ate rice with his hands. Really, guys? Okay, yeah, I find this gross too, but you know there's real criticism to the man, right? Do we really gotta waste time on this? Here, I'll just speedrun this part of the conversation. If your hands are clean enough to do a handshake with somebody else after eating, then that's an appropriate thing to do. That means yes to stuff like cookies and sandwiches, and pizza that's not too greasy, and no to stuff like pasta or steak, or anything with sauces on it. But Dev, you might ask, what about ribs or wings? Those are finger foods, aren't they?
Whoa. I know you're from where you're from.
We're foreign. Well, we don't know what we're doing.
Nah.
You don't need a knife?
No, you take your fingers and you lift that up and you eat it.
Okay.
Not with a fork.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Sorry, enjoy holding your food and eat it like that.
Well, yes, they are. I don't like that either. Plus, there's a reason that people who eat that stuff have a stack of napkins beside them. They don't even wear bibs. Because it's messy food. When it comes to rice, or curry, or soup, or other food that is just liquid, shoveling that shit onto your tongue with your hand is just kind of gross. Compared to your wings, they are messy, yeah, but they're solid food. You hold on to the bone of the thing because there's really no other place to grab it, and then you bite the meat off with your teeth. You're not scooping the liquid with your hands and pouring it into your mouth. I don't like either of these messy fucking practices, but the brainlet leftoids on Twitter, pretending they were completely the same, the only possible component of Johnny's eating habits was racism, they were just being retarded partisans. And yet, a lot of the rightoid complaints against Johnny's eating habits actually were just racism. But you know what? There's a non-racist way to talk about this, and the rightoids overwhelmingly chose the racist one. You got using his bare hand because you think that it's some third world, brown, unhygienic, barbaric practice. Meanwhile, I dislike Mamdani's habits because I understand that he's a rich theater kid who's fully assimilated to the Western leftist subculture of virtue signaling how exotic he is towards his white cosmopolitan allies as a form of in-group performance art meant explicitly to fetishize himself in their eyes in order to earn their support. We are not the fucking same yet. Okay, there is actually a real conversation underneath all of this. At least I think so. And it's one that I'm not sure the right is equipped to have. There's a law on the books in America that says you can't be a communist or a member of a communist organization. Would it stand up to First Amendment scrutiny? I'm not sure, probably not. But it's still currently in force. Is the DSA a communist organization? Well, they'd probably say no, they're a socialist one. But is that just a semantic difference? It might be. Additionally, in the guidelines of the naturalization process, it also says your citizenship application can be rejected if you associate with a communist party or any other totalitarian political party, like a fascist party, for example, or a terrorist organization. Any association with such a group in the past 10 years is an automatic fail. So, when Mamdani filled out this part of the form back in 2015, 1 year after he joined the DSA, did he lie? Is the DSA a communist organization, as far as the law is concerned? Does this invalidate Mamdani's citizenship? Should it? Should dual citizenship individuals even be allowed to hold office, given they have divided loyalties between the two countries? After all, how do you know that they're not acting on behalf of the other country that they're loyal to? I think there's a good faith conversation to be had about all of these questions. I don't think the left is equipped to have it, because they consider asking the questions to be racist. And I don't think the right is equipped to have it either, because their answers actually do just end up being real racism. Nonetheless, despite all of this, Mamdani is the next mayor of New York City, and there is a fair bit to say about that election itself, but that's more of a story for a future Cuomo video. What I want to talk about is what this election means. Mamdani is a guy who is way too far left, and yet he still won. A lot of people are saying that socialism has won and New York has fallen, but you know what? I don't think so. I think this is a referendum on Trump, and let me tell you why. The New York City mayor's race wasn't the only election held back on November 4th. There were 6 seats in Congress, 2 governor's races, and a bunch of state-level positions that were all up for grabs. And the amount the Democrats won took everyone by surprise. The Democrats held on to pretty much all of their various positions, while also taking the Virginia governor's seat, the Virginia Attorney General, and a whole bunch of other down-ballot races. Pollster Ryan Broom laid out his metrics for how good of a night the Democrats could have possibly had. For example, if Abigail Spanberger won the Virginia governor's race, that's 1 point to the Democrats. If she won by more than Kamala Harris's margin in Virginia during the last presidential election, another point to the Dems. If she won by a margin larger than 14%, a 3rd point, and so on. And it really seems like the Democrats just won all of these predictions. Even the outlandish ones, the ones they weren't expected to win. Even taking into account the fact that it was expected the left would be galvanized to come out more in order to show their disapproval of the Trump administration, everyone was surprised by just how much the Democrats won on November 4th. The victory that triggered the rightoids the most, even more than Mamdani, was Jay Jones winning the Attorney General's race in Virginia. Jones's private messages from 2022 had leaked, where he talked about shooting Virginia's then House Speaker, Republican Todd Gilbert. Jones was universally condemned for this by both Democrats and Republicans, even by Spanberger, who he campaigned with. And yet, Jay Jones still won. The text leak did narrow the gap between him and his opposition in the polls, but it wasn't enough to actually cause him to lose. The right wing interpreted this as the left simply not caring about political violence on their own side. Meanwhile, the left wing interpreted this as the right's actions while in power were so genuinely awful that the electorate still rejected him despite Jones. And oh my god, the amount of bitter salt this unearthed is fucking unmatched. Every rightoid pundit, every talking head, they're all screaming fucking murder over this. Because they know this is a blanket rejection of what they've been doing for the past are Normies are voting for anybody but a Trump candidate, no matter if it's a socialist, bag, or whatever. That is just how much the average American hates the Trump came out. How could they have rejected us? All of our enemies are evil for handing us this L. It's all if it wasn't for those voters voting, the Democrats would never win. The billionaires are rigging the game for the Dems. Yes, it turns out the populist right hates the capitalism of the populist left. Steve Bannon, Jack Passola, Matt Walsh, they're all screaming about George Soros, the voter class, and all that. Even Trump down everyone's throats as fast as they can. Hey, listen, you don't gotta do that. Okay? Here's what I think is the most hope-killing part of all of this. Yes, I don't like Mamdani, and I think if he gets the chance, he will damage New York with his far-left insanity. But of all the races that Democrats won, the establishment liberal votes won with greater margins than popular socialist votes. Hell, even through the absolute fucking craziest radicals, like that far-left Somalian nationalist, Omar Fateh, just straight up fucking lost, not to Republicans, but to establishment center-left Democrats. And just as the online right was coping and seeing that nobody actually likes them, the online left was also coping and seeing that with the exception of Mamdani himself, the libs were beating out their radicals.
As their ideal candidate, that's the cope from them on the race seemingly being so tight. Bro, he won by a bigger fucking margin. Okay. I don't know why the left are just so mad after a night of huge wins. I know. They're not friends with Democrats. They're not friends with some Democrats. They're not friends with liberals. They're not friends with people who are not them.
November 4th was a big win for the Democrats. Conquered Republicans and populists from the left. Let's be real here, guys. Liberals have been under siege from both sides like a decade now, and this was a clear sign that people want the pre-Trump normal back. If they're forced to choose between MAGA and the far left, they'll reluctantly choose the far left. And the far left is a problem. But if there's a center-left liberal option, that is what people want right now most of all. So yeah, I actually feel pretty good about all this. Not because I'm Mamdani, he's a fucking train wreck, but because I think the 2026 Democrat comeback is going to be biblical. We are poised for a lib return, and I am here for it. Also, I guess there is a silver lining in Mamdani after all. After he had that sit-down one-on-one with Hassan Piker, and you realized how fucking stupid he was, Mamdani left Hassan off the invite-only, the VIP lounge at his victory party, which Hassan embarrassingly found out about while live-streaming the whole thing. Whoops.
I do not have you for the offensive.
Okay.
Can I see your ticket tape? Okay. Oh, okay.
We can't go upstairs.
So they're not on the list for upstairs?
I do not, but it's, do you have this wristband? I can also just.
Well, so I thought this was upstairs, huh? Okay.
Damn.
Hey, 42 here. Britain is brimming with unusual customs and traditions.
So years ago, one of the hottest topics online was the downfall of YouTube titan Lily Singh. Lily is quite literally one of the most successful OG YouTubers from that era. You could almost call her like a female FouseyTube, only without the continuous crash outs and rises.
You wanna have some fun tonight, babe?
Honestly, her worst offense from the start has always been being kinda cringe.
Some people say I look like Sugar Paul. Some people say I look like Lil Wayne. Moolah, baby.
And really obsessed with
You know, particular seem to be species of their own, don't they? I'm sure at least once in his life, every brown guy has asked, what the hell is going through the mind of that brown girl?
Even from the very start, her content was always driven revolving around Indian stuff. This is why I also relate her to Fousey, because his early content themes that are displayed in the family of that culture. About a mainstream voice for the Indian people. Now eventually Lily would parlay this early fame into more like comedy skits, not so much just about being Indian.
Okay. Whoa. Whoa. Just because we both have the same skin color, it doesn't mean we're the same.
Yeah, we're our own people. Okay? Stop comparing us.
And I feel like this is where she really hit her stride and started becoming a more mainstream figure in the YouTube space. That was still a much more niche place to go, as was the concept of an influencer being able to make a career online. But Lily was quickly becoming a millionaire, so she starts landing massive collaborations. She becomes friends with Ellen, she becomes friends with The Rock, and all of her videos were getting millions of views.
But I'm launching my YouTube channel soon, and I just need a little bit of advice from the only person I can get it from, you.
Right, of course, YouTube, and obviously I know YouTube. Yeah, YouTube's pretty much my world. It's pretty much like my tube, and I would love to help you get into my tube.
I guess you could say she was definitely on her way to online superstardom, and she would actually continue this run for years, amassing over 14 million subscribers on her YouTube channel, which at the time was obviously considered massive. I mean, even till this day, that is still pretty huge. But obviously, we're now just in like a different era. I would say it's been like the Mr. Beastification of YouTube. I guess you could also say the Slop AI era. And it actually wasn't until around 6 years ago, almost to the day, that her life would be flipped upside down on its head. All through what looks like it could be her greatest opportunity yet. A little late with Lily Singh, her now infamous TV show that would air on NBC.
But now that I'm in this position, I'm super excited about the day to pass. And as a woman, I'm especially stoked to join this group of people.
You may be thinking, hey, who's this broad? And where's my straight white male host?
Now when I reflect on this show, I do kind of have mixed feelings. Because on one hand, I would rather get a lobotomy than sit through the entire 2-season run. But on the other hand, I don't think that anyone would have been successful under the constraints they placed upon it.
Hello, my name is Lily, and I ain't a white man. Got some color, and it ain't a spray tan.
Basically, the budget was so small that they had to film 90 episodes in a little over 3 months, meaning she was shooting multiple per day with an undersized writing staff.
Let's show this. Yes. Where am I? Now, this is the type of representation we should be seeing in 2019.
Oh, is this a callback audition for Quirky Best Friend of a White League?
There's 3 episodes and 2 sketches. In one day.
And that's not to even mention that there was a massive delay from when these would be filmed and subsequently released. And I really do feel like late-night talk shows rely on current events quite a bit, and this would only become much more noticeable when the pandemic hit, as a lot of the topics she was talking about now seemed beyond tone deaf, like making out with people, or going to parties, or basically just being in public places.
Now, I've just noticed that my guy friends don't bring new girlfriends around me anymore, also. It used to be because they thought I'd them. Okay, but now, not only can I block, I can rebound, box out, do a layup, and score!
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
But beyond that, the biggest issue with the show, and now the biggest issue with her crumbling career, is that exclusivity and her perceived ideas.
This one depends when too far. Fine, you get one.
Which basically equates to white people always being evil, you know, always being the butt of the joke, while minorities are propped up as if we are some sort of make-a-wish kids. You know, in Lily's mind, it's like we always need some sort of social savior.
I understand that for some people, white people, seeing someone like me host a show is terrifying. Ball gown, okay. A little overkill though. Maybe for when I win my Emmy. Which, let's be real, it's inevitable. Because a whole bunch of older white people voting for a brown girl will help them get praised. Meanwhile, the other kid is like, oh great, another white savior. Because Daniel knows better than to hook up with some white lady. But at least it's inclusive, if you know what I mean.
And look, I get that this is her form of some sort of media reparations that she is trying to take into her own hands, but the whole bit became incredibly exhausting. Like, there is nothing clever or new about the in regards to racial dynamics. And above all, it just seems like she just shits on white people over and over just for the sake of it, especially white men.
Next, lunge forward. Just like you want to lunge at Kyle's throat when he steals your idea to
board meeting and then tells you to smile more while he grabs your ass in the elevator.
I mean, don't get me wrong, using race and identity in comedy is a story as old as time. But Lily just has this very immature, shallow way of approaching the topic every single time. And I also find this all incredibly ironic, because she admits that when she initially was pitched this opportunity for this show, they really only wanted her because she was a bisexual woman of color.
Let's break down this offer properly. And it was explained to me the machine that is late night and how historically late night hosts all look the same and talk about the same things. And this would be an opportunity to do something different and have someone different and kind of make history, and my ego likes making history. Like it does.
You like to be the first to do this, right?
By nature, I am that type of person that's like, oh, growing up, I told me not to do this, I absolutely have to do this. Like I gravitate towards the rebellion always. I know this about myself.
Something that she says over and over again.
Bisexual woman of color. Bisexual woman of color. Like, yo, come on. I'm more than just a bisexual woman of color, okay? I almost legally changed my name to bisexual woman of color. But now, listen to me. Your kids will grow up to be bisexual women of color talk show hosts.
It's almost like when someone's trying to be in on the joke, when in reality they don't realize how hilariously ironic it is. And I think that she is capable of doing so because her ego is so big. Now, needless to say, this show was a massive failure. The viewership was declining by the episode, and after 2 seasons, they eventually canned her, and her diversity justice proved.
If you have a problem with me talking about being bi or a woman of color, you're 100% entitled to your own opinion. And you can talk all about it on your TV show. Oh wait, you don't have one.
And even beyond the issues with the actual content, I feel like her voice was often so grating. And hearing her go on these long monologues time and time again just killed my brain cells. And honestly, most of the time it seemed like she was just trying way too hard to be funny or relatable.
I'm so single that sometimes I ghost myself just to feel any type of emotion. No worries, fam. Light one up. You're good.
And overall, I feel like this was an opportunity that was handed to Lily prematurely because she did really check out on YouTube with the right sort of target demographics for them to take a swing at it.
If you're wondering why I've been chosen to host this show, it's because television is dying and the internet is thriving.
But Jesus Christ, did they strike out?
Here comes the pitch. Strike three, and he didn't even get the bat off his shoulder.
And something really derailed her career, her mental health, and her public perception. And what would actually make matters much worse is that in the aftermath of this fallout, Lily would go on to do a TED Talk that was also incredibly cringe.
I can't tell you how many times I forgot to wipe that chest hair off. A lot of times.
But it was also here where we learn why Lily is so hell-bent on massaging her own ego through the guise of fame and success, and being quote-unquote groundbreaking. It actually all started from the moment she was born.
You see, because my mom had been told that if she gave birth to a daughter, it wasn't worth phoning home about. After all, she'd already given birth to my older sister, and this time everyone had high hopes that she would be right and have a son. But she didn't. She had me. And so there were no congratulations or Indian sweets sent our way. Just the reality that from the moment I came to the world, I was already a disappointment to so many people.
So from the start, she was destined to have an issue with the way she viewed herself and also her self-worth. It was literally ingrained in her that being born a woman was to be subservient to men. Obviously something that can create a massive issue with someone's self-image.
He said that I had done what no one else could have done, and I had made the family name proud. Me, Lily, baby born girl. I am attracted to influence and power because I always felt like that's how I had to change people's minds.
So this then defines who she was as a person, really for her entire life. And it's like the only way that she could get back at her family and prove them wrong is to have this massive chip on her shoulder. So it's like all of her work ethic and even eventual success was driven out of spite rather than anything positive, and it's like she just cannot let that go.
It would be naive for me to sit here and say that a lot of my success is not because I had a desire in me to prove people wrong.
Like you had to work 10 times as hard as the male that they were hoping for, the boy that they were hoping for.
I had to literally become a superhero.
Because honestly, a lot of people are driven to success by wanting to like prove people wrong. But usually at some point once they've made it, they can do some self-reflection and realize, oh, well, if they didn't want me, well, fuck them. And fuck it.
There I was Lily, the baby born a brown girl, rubbing elbows or at least time slots with comfy royalty.
Now, even with that all being said, she still crones on about the fact that her show was not successful, basically crying that no one wanted to hear her shallow-ass perspectives on social politics.
The silver lining is that we'll finally get a different perspective in late night. Now a little bit of melanin, a touch of queer, a different take on things. Let's do this. But my take was almost never included in topical media news coverage roundups. You know, we still got the same voices, the same perspectives, even though someone and something different was literally in the next time slot. I kept trying to pull up my seat. I kept trying to join the dinner conversation. I kept trying to ask for a more supportive seat. But every time I would be told that I should be grateful to have a seat in the first place.
While also blaming her race and her sexuality for her eventual cancellation. Almost like saying, oh, the world just wasn't ready for these messages yet from someone who looks like me.
I would receive notes like, don't be so loud, don't be so big, don't be so angry, smile more. And my all-time favorite, don't over-index on the South Asian stuff. Now, unfortunately, the budget wasn't based on the importance or significance or historic nature of the show. It was based on the 1:30 a.m. time slot that we had. So a true investment is one that values potential over proof. Because so often that proof doesn't exist for women. Not because we aren't qualified, but because we haven't been given the opportunity. In other words, if you're trying to be inclusive, don't give someone new a seat made of straw until they prove they deserve a better one.
When in reality, the messenger had truly not earned her place at the table, as she likes to say. Just watching the show, it was beyond obvious that Lily skipped a bunch of steps, and was more or less thrown to the front of this line. Every late-night host has spent years grinding stand-up, maybe in some writing rooms, or doing some sort of other hosting, you know, like live performance type of jobs. And while yes, she had done some live shows in the past, Lily was still prematurely given this job, and when she tried to step out of the YouTube bubble, it was beyond obvious that she was not prepared. And when you combine that with her massive ego, I mean, even when she won some sort of award that I'm guessing was bought and paid for, I think it was like Female Comedian of the Year, she was so incredibly cringe and not humble at all in her acceptance. She was actually very spiteful.
Thank God! Because this has been exhausting. A lot of you recognized me from that show that your publicist told you not to do, because then you couldn't get on one of the Jimmys. It's fine, honestly, whatever. I honestly don't care. I'm not even hurt. I don't even care. It's whatever. I'll be me, Kyle, my manager, they're all here. Someone applaud them. You don't know them. They're strangers. Do it anyways. Oh, like I want to say things like, I don't deserve to be here. Like, I don't deserve to be in this room because women always have to downplay our accomplishments. Not today.
And I feel like for the last couple of years, Lily has definitely been laying kinda low. Like, I really think the failure of her late night show did a lot of damage to her ego and her self-esteem. And I think she really felt like at that point everyone had kind of turned on her.
I guess in my delusional... And then when I did late night, to see that so many creators on YouTube like tore me apart the first chance they got, it was this irrational sense of betrayal.
But now she has released this independent film. It's like her brainchild of around 7 years under her production company called Unicorn Island Productions. I'm gonna let you guys take a guess about who's the star of this show.
Hello everyone, I'm Miss Singh, and I'll be teaching sex ed.
The only person who should be entering you is Jesus.
I can't teach this class.
Why not?
Oh wait guys, let's give it a chance. Maybe this piece of content is about something other than identity politics.
For everyone, we made a sex comedy. We think something that looks like you, like it's not going to be for everyone. I even know it's not going to be. So one of the things that filmmakers, like minority groups, struggle with a lot is that most scripts. And so when Kyle will be like, this white men in this, it's a thing that we discuss that's like, it's a little tough.
Yeah, well this is gonna suck.
I've been dating this VJ, and she's been remixing my be like,
Experiment with your sexuality, girl.
bringing my mommy and some little baby wieners. She's in my diaper.
The movie is called Doing It, where Lily stars as a 40-year-old virgin who has been assigned to teach sexual education.
You're still a virgin? Shut up, Maya, that's weird.
Now I won't lie to you guys, I have not watched the movie yet, but y'all let me know down in the comments if you do want me to do a separate review of it. Because honestly, it does seem pretty raunchy. There was even some scenes in the trailer. Now the last thing I really want to touch on here is that Lily, or perhaps her publicist, has, from my perspective, been buying views and comments on not only her videos, but also anywhere she has gone recently to do an interview. I mean, just look at this string of comments from her most recent video where she goes to her movie premiere and compare it to this interview she did, or even this interview she did, or that interview she did, or this piece of content she did, and the comments are all bots, and not just normal stuff like those nasty things on nasty websites. They all just say completely irrelevant stuff, but it's always the same, oh, this is a masterpiece, or this news is really well written, here's a great piece of journalism. And that is why it is my belief that she or her team are bottling these comments to try and make her seem more relevant than she is in 2025, which is honestly perfectly in line with her career, where she seems to think she is much more important and groundbreaking than she really is.
I could break a system, break a mold, do something different, and blow the door wide open.
I mean, she's gone on some podcasts with some pretty major production value, and these videos are months old, sitting at like 200 or 300 views. But yes, this was all kind of just a dive into the pool of Lilly Singh and why her career kind of failed and stalled out. I mean, don't get me wrong, for some time she was very successful. She did help pioneer and lay the ground of what YouTube would eventually become, and it's at least part of the reason while some people have moved on and done decently well. But I do really think it's all a great lesson that sometimes what you think will be a great opportunity can actually totally derail your career in life. So you really do have to be careful with what you say yes to, and I really think that you should never go all in on something just for the sake of making history, when in reality it really just all aided in a historical downfall. But either way, I want to know what you guys think about the career of Lilly Singh down below. Were you a fan of her when you were a kid? Are you now like 30 years old with a family? Either way, I do want to thank you guys for watching today's video, dropping a like and subscribing. But as you guys know, it's been your boy the Tan Superman, covering that Tan Superwoman. And some other fallen off YouTubers out here need to be covered, so I'm out. Peace.
On May 19th, 2017, Chicago rapper and social media personality Lamonta Tito Reese replied to an insult about Mario Meekgate's mother with just a mocking smiley face emoji. What happened next shocked everyone who thought it was just a post. Here are 9 influencers who disrespected the wrong gangs. Whistleblower who used his platform to call out Venezuela's darkest operations: police corruption, extortion, and the country's most feared gang, the Tren de Aragua. But how does a guy from a tough neighborhood end up making enemies so powerful they'd rather kill him than let him keep talking? Let's rewind. Gabriel grew up in Aragua State, a region infamous for gang activity. At first, his TikTok was lighthearted, local humor, everyday life, maybe a trending challenge or two. But as his audience grew, he leaned into bolder content. By the time he had more than 77,000 followers and over 1 million likes, his page had morphed into something far riskier: a stage for exposing corruption. Unlike other creators, Gabriel didn't pull punches. He called names, posted photos, and even accused police of running extortion rackets. He claimed he'd been kidnapped by a notorious police unit called DAT, Dirección de Acciones Estratégicas y Tácticas, and tagged Venezuela's interior minister and Aragua's governor directly in his posts. It wasn't entertainment anymore. He was an activist, raw and unfiltered. And then came his boldest move. going after Tren de Aragua, Venezuela's most powerful gang. This wasn't some small-time street crew. They run drug trafficking, human smuggling, and extortion rackets across Latin America. The U.S. has even labeled them a terrorist organization. Their leader, Hector Guerrero Flores, known as Niño Guerrero, escaped during a 2023 raid that dismantled his prison fortress at Tocorón. To most people, even saying his name he didn't just criticize the gang, he ridiculed their power, exposed their threats, and even shared messages he said came from their prison contacts. He accused Tren de Aragua of silencing critics through police allies, blurring the line between cops and criminals. He also took shots at rival groups like Tren del Llano, broadening his list of enemies. In short, Gabriel made himself a target the size of a billboard, and the threats poured in. But instead of hiding, he turned the warnings into content. He told his audience about the death threats, almost daring the people behind them to come forward. "Look at this," he'd say on camera, holding up evidence. "These guys think they're untouchable." That raw style resonated with everyday Venezuelans who felt powerless. Gabriel became a digital hero. But heroes, especially loud ones, rarely live long in places where the wrong words can be fatal. Which brings us back to that night in June. Gabriel was live, mid-rant when chaos erupted. Gunmen burst into his home in El Piñonal, firing at least 9 shots. His mother was hit in the abdomen. Gabriel collapsed on camera, blood pooling as he pleaded for help. The stream ended abruptly. A clip spread across social media like wildfire. Venezuela's Attorney General Tarek William Saab quickly announced a probe. The 69th Prosecutor's Office was assigned to hunt down those responsible. Within days, police arrested Fiorina Oribari, the partner of alleged shooter Adrian Romero, charging her with homicide, criminal association, and terrorism. Warrants were issued for Romero himself and 2 other suspects, Wilbert Gonzalez and Gerald Nieto. Authorities hinted at Tren de Aragua links, but were careful not to say too much, leaving plenty of suspicion about whether this was purely gang retaliation, a police cover-up, or both. What's certain is that Gabriel's murder was more than a crime. It is a reminder of the deadly price of speaking truth in a country where gangs and corrupt officials blur into one.
Ariela Mejia Polanco was gunned down 8 days ago while driving her Mercedes SUV on the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon.
August 17, 2025, in Mount Vernon, New York. The police responded to a routine call about a parked vehicle on the Cross County Parkway and made a disturbing discovery. Inside a white Mercedes SUV, they found the body of a woman who had been shot to death. An influencer known for New York's nightlife was found inside the SUV. Her designer outfit stained with blood, and the car engine was still running when the police arrived. The bullet holes made clear what had just happened, and investigators quickly confirmed the case was being treated as a homicide, that it wasn't an accident, it was a hit. Slumped behind the wheel was Ariela Mejia Polanco, better known to her thousands of Instagram followers as La Langosta. Ariela wasn't your average influencer posting brunch plates and vacation selfies. She had a presence in the lounges of Inwood and the clubs of Manhattan. She was the one holding down VIP, eyes, brushing shoulders with hip-hop royalty. She belonged in the field and online, yet she was tied to Daniel Hernandez, better known as Tekashi 6ix9ine, who made some of the deadliest enemies anyone could imagine. Rainbow hair, face tattoos, screaming ad-libs. Shot to fame in 2017 with Gummo, Tekashi 6ix9ine was aligned with the 9 Trey Gangs of Bloods, a violent the Bloods gang out of New York. Then came 2019 when the feds came knocking with racketeering charges that could have kept him locked up for decades. He made a surprising decision instead of standing tall. He sat in a courtroom and snitched, pointing fingers at his old crew. His testimony chopped his sentence down to 2 years. And by 2020, thanks to COVID house arrest deals, he was free. Which brings us back to Ariela. She wasn't just his friend. She was not just showing up at the same parties. She was his ride or die. But here's the catch. In gangland, perception is reality. And to the 9 Trey and other crews, flaunting that lifestyle looked like rubbing salt in their wounds. Was she personally dissing them? Reports suggest she cooperated during the 2019 trial. But even without that, being the public face of Tekashi's post-trial life put her squarely in the crosshairs. Think of it. These gangs don't always go after the main target. Most times it's easier and just as effective to hurt the people closest to them, especially when they can't always touch the snitch hiding under federal protection. But you can make them suffer by striking his loved ones. That's exactly the theory investigators are chasing right now. So, what happened on that morning? According to Westchester County authorities, Ariella wasn't robbed. Nothing was stolen. And her Mercedes was untouched. Someone had pulled up, opened fire, and left her riddled with bullets. Pure execution style. And in seconds, the business was done. Her 500,000 plus followers went into shock. One day, they were double-tapping her glamorous posts. The next, they were flooding her page with RIP messages. Friends and fans lit candles, held vigils, and plastered the hashtag Justice for La Langosta across social media. Celebrities chimed in too, like Cardi B, another Dominican powerhouse out of NYC, who mourned her publicly, calling her a real one. But on the street, whispers spread fast. Was this 9Trey finally sending a message years after Tekashi's betrayal? Was the Dominican crew tied to the NYC drug scene, angry about old beef? Or was it someone even closer? Someone inside her circles who felt burned? Nobody's sure yet, and as of now, the police haven't named any suspects. What they have confirmed is this. It was targeted, and Ariella's ties to Tekashi can't be ignored. May 23, 2017 in Englewood, Chicago, 22-year-old rapper and social media personality Lamanta Tayeto Reese, known online as Tayeto the Shooter, was shot and killed while sitting on a porch. It wasn't some random act of violence. His death traced back to something most people wouldn't think twice about, like the normal back and forths on Chicago's social media scene. It started small, a simple post, and a reply. Nothing unusual. However, in the streets of Chicago, these exchanges aren't just harmless words on a screen. When Tato responded to an insult about Meek Gates' mother with nothing but a mocking emoji, it struck a nerve deeper than he likely imagined. Tato wasn't an ordinary Facebook user either. He was a part of Chicago's rising drill rap scene, a member of the Black Disciples, and someone who used YouTube and Twitter to share music while flashing his gang ties. His Twitter alone had over 28,000 posts, bold, raw, and unfiltered. To fans, he was entertaining. To rivals like the Gangster Disciples, everything he posted was ammunition. On the outside, it seemed silly. Why would an emoji push things over the edge? In Chicago's gang culture, public disrespect is a line you don't cross. Because when you do, there are consequences. That's why this particular emoji mattered so much. So when Meek Gates fired off an insult about Tato's mother, and Tato fired back with that infamous smiley face, it wasn't just a petty online spat. It was war talk. Researchers have even pointed out that online cyberbanging can raise the risk of real-life gang violence by 20-30%. Tato's post fit the mold perfectly. It wasn't just content. It was a provocation. Tato wasn't the type to back down. Like many drill rappers, he built his persona around fearlessness. His followers expected rawness, and he gave it to them. To his supporters, his clapbacks were proof he wasn't scared of anyone. Chicago already knows what happens when online taunts spill into the streets. Countless rappers had been killed in feuds started by social media. Tato knew that history, but silence wasn't an option. In drill culture, silence looks like weakness, and weakness gets exploited. So he kept posting and mocking rivals, dropping captions that were like warnings. Finally, that smiley face emoji aimed at Meek Gates. To fans, it was savage. May 19, 2017, Tato was on a porch in Englewood when a car rolled up. Shots rang out, bullets hit and killed him. Police later confirmed what most people already suspected, that his death was gang-related. And his Facebook post had played a role in setting it off. For Chicago, the cycle was painfully familiar. The rivalry between Black Disciples and Gangster Disciples had been locked in for decades, and each generation inherited the grudges of the last. Drill music only magnified them. May 18, 2015, Shaquan Young Pappy Thomas was walking through Washington Park on Chicago's South Side. His track, Killa, was climbing toward 2 million views on YouTube. a song where he didn't just rap, but openly mocked fallen gangster disciples by name. He was part of the Polo Boys gang, a set loosely tied to the Black Disciples, and his music regularly took shots at their rivals, the Gangster Disciples. Social media gave Pappy a bigger stage. YouTube made him a star, while Twitter and Facebook let him keep the beef going in real time. This was the era when cyberbanging just became a thing, gang wars moving from street corners to smartphone screens. For his fans, this made him exciting, raw, and real. He even posted personal stuff, sometimes giving away his location, unknown to him that for his rivals, it was like handing them a roadmap. By 2015, warnings and threats from the other side were stacking up. That night, it all caught up to him, as Pappy walked along the 4,800 block of North Kenmore Avenue in Chicago's uptown neighborhood around 1:35 a.m. when a car rolled up and a gunman wearing a gray hoodie shot young Pappy in the back with 2 bullets, then fled in a black car. Pappy was rushed to Illinois Masonic Medical Center, where he succumbed to his injuries. What's striking is how normal all this felt to Pappy and his peers. Dropping diss tracks, posting taunts online. He wasn't the first, and sadly, he wasn't the last. Different names, same pattern. His music is still online. Killa still racks up streams, a reminder of the line he walked between stardom and survival. Young Pappy's story shows just how thin that line can be when every lyric and every post has the power to get you killed.
And then we got a video sent through to us off Instagram page of these kids going through the car and stealing everything.
July 13th, 2021 in Gold Coast, Australia. Troy Williams, better known as Candyman 2.0, picked up his phone and froze. A video was blowing up on Instagram, tagged straight to his account, and in it was a group of masked kids, barely teenagers, laughing as they ransacked his pregnant girlfriend Anita's $130,000 Mercedes. They waved his designer shades, tried on his watches, and even flipped the camera off. For a guy like Troy who lived to show off, that was a nightmare. His empire was built on expensive cars, pool parties, and the image that nothing could touch him until now. In one video, kids had made him look weak. But this didn't just happen out of the blue. In March 2021, Troy was already stirring trouble, feeling untouchable, as he had just been serious charges from a dangerous driving incident at a car meet. He went on Instagram and started ranting, calling out, "Punk kids ruining the coast," mocking the teen gangs who had been breaking into homes, stealing cars, and showing off their crimes online. When he got home in front of his row of supercars, he dared it. Think you're gangster? Come try that at my place. See what happens. He was mocked. These small youth groups who called themselves the Ghost Shadows were reckless and cold. They resented how Troy flaunted his wealth while they struggled to get out of their lives. Then, and they were the perfect chance to strike out. That chance came in July, when Anita went for a prenatal checkup. The crew spotted her Mercedes, broke in, and took everything from bags, jewelry, Troy's custom merch, and even her ultrasound photo. And instead of hiding, they filmed the whole thing and posted it to Troy's page.
And they knew who we were because they tagged us when they stole it and said, "Got your stuff, Troy."
It wasn't one of them even shouted, "This is for the disrespect. Gold Coast owns you now. You disrespect us. We disrespect you." Hours later, Troy fired back. He went online in a close-up video showing his arms covered in tattoos, voice steady but cold. He put up a $5,000 reward for info on the thieves. His followers quickly sent tips, screenshots of accounts, names of kids, and even license plate numbers. And within a day, he knew exactly who was behind it. But instead of calling the police, Troy made a choice to handle it himself. By July 15th, he tracked the crew down to a park in Coomera, where they usually hung out. Troy rolled up in a black Lamborghini with a couple of his big mates from the car scene, without guns, no fists, but he wasn't playing. He stepped out and barked, "You boys thought that was funny?" The kids scattered, but a few were cornered and under pressure. They handed back most of what they'd stolen. One boy, the ringleader, didn't flinch. He was just 15 years old with freshly inked tattoo. He stared Troy down and muttered, "This ain't over, Candy. You dissed us first. We'll hit harder next time. For the moment things calmed down, Troy got his stuff back and even tried to spin the story into a lesson. Troy shared the moment online, warning young people not to waste their lives on crime. It almost looked like the drama was behind him, but the whispers didn't stop. By late 2021, anonymous accounts started trolling Troy, leaking what they claimed was his new address, posting threats and bragging about slashing his tires at car meets. Many believed it was the same group of kids. Then, in early 2022, Troy's house was raided by police on drug possession charges. Rumors spread that the tip-off had come from them. They had their payback for the embarrassment he'd caused. By 2023, he had launched his own energy drink, G-Up, partied with big-name businessmen like Adrian Portelli, and welcomed a boy with Anita. And for the first time, he'd been reminded that he wasn't as untouchable as he thought by a kid. At the end of the day, Troy's story shows what happens when ego and the streets collide. He wanted to prove he couldn't be touched, and in doing so, painted a massive target on himself. Those kids weren't hardened criminals, but they were daring enough to take a shot at someone bigger than them. And for a brief moment, they succeeded. Troy Williams is still around, still living the lifestyle, calling himself Candyman 2.0. But deep down, he knows the sting of being checked, and he knows that no matter how bright you shine online, there's always someone waiting in the shadows. September 24th, 2011, in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. A note was found on the mutilated body of a woman sprawled across the ground around the Christopher Columbus Monument, with a computer keyboard horrifically placed on her head, wires spilling out like veins. The note read, "Okay, Nuevo Laredo and Vivo and social media sites. I am Nena de Laredo, and I'm here because of my reports and yours. For those who don't believe this happened to me because of my actions, thank you for your attention. La Nena de Laredo." Zzz. Those Z's, that's the calling card of Los Zetas, a ruthless cartel in the region. And this wasn't just another killing in a city plagued by them. It was a statement, loud and clear. If you talk about us online, this is your fate. For context, La Nena de Laredo was Marisol Macias Castañeda, away from the internet. She was 39 years old, the managing editor of Primera Hora, a small local newspaper. A respected professional, but like most reporters in Tamaulipas, she avoided writing about the cartels in print. Why? Because everyone knew what happened to journalists who did. By night, she became La Nena de Laredo, an active voice on Nuevo Laredo and Vivo, a citizen journalism forum where anonymous users warned neighbors about shootouts, cartel checkpoints, and safe routes home. Think of it like a digital survival map in a city where the press had been silenced and official channels were useless. Back then, Nuevo Laredo was one of the bloodiest hotspots in northern Mexico. Just across the river from Laredo, Texas, it was prime turf for Los Zetas, a cartel that is more than just into drugs. They are made up of former Special Forces soldiers who had gone rogue, warlords, brutally organized, and hungry for absolute control. They didn't just traffic cocaine or extort businesses. They thrived on terror. Their goal wasn't simply to make money, it was to dominate every corner of life. And that meant silencing anyone who spoke out. La Nena didn't just post vague warnings. She mocked Los Zetas directly, urging others to expose their movements and calling them rats. Her posts were full of determination. Keep reporting. Soon these rats will fall. She encouraged neighbors to keep tipping off the Army and the Navy, sharing intel that could save lives. For ordinary citizens, she was a lifeline. For the Zetas, she was a problem, a real challenge, because every post La Nena made gave them out and made them look vulnerable, disrupting their operations. But on September 23rd, 2011, they abducted her. The next day, they staged her brutal murder in the most public way possible. Her head on the keyboard wasn't random. It was a symbolic punishment for using the internet against them. And the note, it forced her online identity to confess, as if, even in death, she was being made to admit defeat. Surprisingly, La Nena wasn't the first. Just 2 weeks earlier, on September 13th, 2011, two people, a man and a woman, were found hanging from an overpass in Nuevo Laredo. Their crime was being internet snitches. A sign pinned to them warned others to stop reporting cartel activity on social media. By the end of 2011, at least 4 online citizen reporters in Nuevo Laredo had been brutally killed. Los Zetas weren't just controlling the streets before La Nena's murder. People thought being anonymous online kept them safe. But after her, forums went silent. People logged off. And everyone realized a username couldn't protect them. Fear spread like wildfire. Even the bravest realized that if the Zetas wanted you, a username wouldn't save you. Globally, her incident caught attention as UNESCO condemned it. Human rights groups called for better protections. And journalists worldwide started asking how they could keep citizen reporters safe. For people in Nuevo Laredo, La Nena's death wasn't just another headline, it was proof that no form of speaking out was safe. It could get you killed, even with good intentions. She was simply trying to protect her community, and that alone made her a target. In October 2011, videos started circulating of masked figures promising to expose the Zetas' entire network. Anonymous launched an operation, Op Cartel, where they claimed one of their members had been kidnapped by the Zetas in Veracruz, and warned they would reveal cartel operatives and even their political allies if their comrade wasn't released. The Zetas, in response to their threats, hired a hacker and, in turn, threatened to kill 10 civilians for every name leaked. Anonymous ultimately pulled back after their member was released. But the episode stirred paranoia, as local bloggers like those on Nuevo Laredo and Vivo suddenly looked like part of the same online rebellion, even if they weren't connected to Anonymous. The timing made their posts feel like a digital uprising against the cartel, and the Zetas were itching to make an example.
It'll be a good morning when you buy
2011,
something
the city
and
of
get the
Nuevo
fuck out of
Laredo
here.
woke
What's it
up to
gonna
another
be, huh?
nightmare. Just near the Christopher Columbus Monument, pedestrians froze at the sight in front of them. A body lay dumped in the open. mutilated,
Oh, you want a
decapitated,
guarantee,
and
huh?
staged in a
Well,
way that
maybe
made it
you should
impossible
try
to ignore.
Shamway.
A computer keyboard and headphones had been staged nearby, giving it a twisted, theatrical touch. What terrified people the most wasn't just the gore. It was the handwritten message pinned beside him like a caption. Hello, I'm Rescott Tripas, and this happened to me because I didn't understand that I shouldn't report things on social networks. For most outsiders, the name meant nothing but inside Nuevo Laredo, the word Rascatripas sent shivers. For Scratcher, and that word was tied to the underground world of online citizen reporting. For months, locals had been turning to anonymous forums. New Laredo was to stay one step ahead of danger. Mainstream newspapers were paralyzed by fear. Reporters who dared to cover cartel violence were threatened, kidnapped, or killed. So ordinary people stepped in using nicknames. They logged into forums to warn each other. Don't go down this street. There's a shootout. Avoid this block. The Zetas set up a checkpoint. Someone just got kidnapped near this store. It was crude. Grassroots reporting for survival. And the cartels despised it. They feared that if ordinary people could go online and share information, then power had slipped from their hands. Even if Rascatripas never called names or revealed secrets, just pushing back against silence was enough to humiliate them. And in cartel logic, humiliation demands blood. His death became part of their playbook with similar symbols from the previous ones. A note, a body, which turned out the way they wanted. Suddenly, the internet went quiet. People who once warned neighbors logged off. Others deleted their accounts. The most disturbing part? Rascatripas may not have even been the blogger the Zetas claimed. He might never have posted a word against them. But in cartel territory, disrespect isn't always about insults. Sometimes it's simply pressing post, and for that, a man lost his life.
Da chinga, no sé qué gorro ponerme. Este es de Hash Club. Son las que más me han gustado, están muy verdes.
August 16th, 2025, in Temixco, Morelos, Camilo Ochoa, better known as El Alucin, was picking out clothes in his house, recording a casual Instagram video, laughing about how stuffed his wardrobe was. And then minutes later, a gunman stormed through the front door, and the rest was history. The news spread really fast as thousands of people had watched his video hours before. Now, headlines were saying he'd been executed in his own home. Camilo wasn't some kid who stumbled into YouTube fame. He came from money. His family built El Pollo Loco, the grilled chicken chain that grew from Sinaloa to the U.S. By his early 20s, he was working in the business, living comfortably. But in 2004, everything changed. He was kidnapped by Los Zetas and held hostage for 7 days until his family paid ransom. Most people would take that as a warning to stay far away from cartel life, but Camilo didn't. Instead, he got hooked and went deeper, dabbling in drug trafficking and chasing connections in Colombia. By 2014, he was a boss in Mazatlan, managing territory for the Sinaloa cartel under Damaso Lopez Núñez, known as El Licenciado. But the Sinaloa cartel wasn't united after El Chapo's arrest. Factions started splitting. Camilo leaned toward El Chapo's sons, Los Chapitos, and that decision would haunt him for the rest of his life. In 2015, Camilo got caught with a military-grade weapon and was sentenced to 7 years in prison. While he was there, reports say El Licenciado, once his ally, ordered his death through El Mayito Flaco, son of El Mayo Zambada, as the attempt failed and Camilo survived, served his time, and walked out in 2022 with a new mission. His father was ill. His daughters begged him to quit cartel life, and he claimed he was done with the old ways. So he turned to social media. On YouTube and Instagram, he reinvented himself as El Alucin, the hallucination, the storyteller, where he shared wild tales about kidnappings, deals gone wrong, and the codes of old-school narcos. People loved the inside scoop. He gained thousands of followers, mixing storytelling with style and charisma. He didn't just share experiences, he started throwing shade directly at La Mayiza, the faction loyal to El Mayo and his son, Mayito Flaco. In podcasts and Instagram rants, he blasted them for being savage and for abandoning the so-called values of older narcos. In one video, which was the last one he posted on the day he died, he accused Mayito Flaco of refusing to spare 2 minors during an attack, one of them autistic, and contrasted that with El Mayo, who, despite cooperating with U.S. authorities, at least tried to keep peace. By mid-2025, things got serious. Flyers were literally dropped from planes over Culiacan with a blacklist of 25 names. On it were Peso Pluma, Marquitos Toys, and yes, El Alucin. The message stated that these people were Chapitos puppets and needed to be cut off. Then the warnings came. Several Pollo local restaurants were targeted in Nuevo Leon, and Camilo knew what it meant. In interviews, he admitted that he was already targeted and begged authorities to act, saying the government would only care when something happens to someone important. Well, that didn't stop him from posting. He kept going live, kept mocking, kept talking. One would think maybe it was confidence, denial, or the same adrenaline that pulled him into cartel life years earlier. Either way, he didn't back down. And then came August 16th, 2025. Camilo dressed well, recorded casually, laughed about his wardrobe, and hours later, gunmen broke in. He ran to the bathroom, but it was too late. Right in front of his wife, the attack had unfolded. Multiple shots ended his life on the spot. 6 others from that blacklist were already dead by then, including the brother of influencer, Marquitos. The streets quickly whispered what others already believed. That was settling scores. After his death, his channels went silent. Fans argued online about bravery and recklessness, and others were confused about whether he was just exposing truths or just chasing views. Whichever it is, the cartels don't play by internet rules. To them, Camilo wasn't an influencer. He was a man running his mouth, dragging their names into the spotlight, and mocking them in front of the world. And that kind of disrespect doesn't stay online.
Papas, yo también puedo a traer lo que sea la verga. Así que el mecho a mí me pela la verga.
2017, the noise of a bar in Zapopan, Jalisco, was suddenly broken as gunmen from the Jalisco New Generation Cartel's elite group. Within seconds, they opened fire on a teenager who thought he was on fire. That teenager was Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales, better known to the world as Pirata de Culiacan. Juan was born in Navolato, Sinaloa, and grew up in tough circumstances. His parents left early in his life, and he was raised by his grandmother. School didn't hold him. By 15, he had dropped out and was washing cars in Culiacan to survive. Somewhere in that chaos, he found a different path. Social media. His wild clips, guzzling liquor, cracking crude jokes, stumbling through house parties, were raw, funny, and instantly shareable. Fans saw him as a rebel who had no fear. Someone who lived the life they only joked about. Online, The kid from Navalaya became a symbol of defiance. He had over 1 million followers on Facebook and another 300,000 on Instagram. And his fans loved watching him shout catchphrases like "Puro Pirata," while chugging whiskey straight from the bottle. On the surface, he was a teenager who had fun online. But in Mexico, that kind of recklessness comes with limits. Juan wasn't just entertaining, he was brushing up against narco culture. And then one night, during a live stream, he pushed it too far. Drunk and laughing, Juan mentioned the name no one dared to speak about, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, leader of the CJMG. El Mencho was not just another cartel boss, he was one of Mexico's most feared men, controlling a violent organization responsible for thousands of deaths. Yet El Pirata, slurring his words, mocked him directly. El Mencho a mí me pela la verga. A crude insult aimed at the cartel kingpin. It's the kind of thing a teenager would say to sound tough online, not realizing what it means in the real world. On that night in December, Juan was drinking with friends at Mentados Cantaros bar. Witnesses recall the black truck pulling up and several armed men entering the place. In seconds, bullets tore through him. Reports say he was hit at least 15 times. The bar manager was also critically wounded, but Juan was dead before anyone could react. As he was identified later by his tattoos, news of his killing spread as fast as his viral videos, and social media exploded with shock, memes, and endless theories. Some insisted it was a direct hit ordered by El Mencho, punishment for the insult. Authorities, as usual, gave few answers, but to his fans and to anyone watching, the lesson was brutally clear. In a place where cartel power is absolute, finding the wrong man is no joke. What makes this story even more tragic is how young El Pirata was. A kid barely old enough to drive. Yet he had millions of views and fans egging him on. He embodied a culture where fame and money seemed worth any risk, even when that risk meant provoking the deadliest criminals in Mexico.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about a classic from the legend himself, Mr. Ed Wood. It's Plan 9 from Outer Space. For those of you who don't know, Ed Wood wrote and directed several low-budget films throughout the course of his career. He's pretty much the original king of bad movies, which basically makes him my hero. And if you're interested, in 1994, Tim Burton made a movie about Ed Wood, starring Johnny Depp. It's called Ed Wood. It's a great movie. I would totally recommend watching it. So Ed made a slew of these terrible movies back in the 50s, including this one. And I always love checking out old movies like this. It's always interesting to see how everything looked. It really was a different time. The world was a different place. Doctors were smoking, people were seemingly drinking all the time, and most people didn't even own a color TV. So let's switch this one up a bit. I think that's a good idea. Because in the 1950s and 60s, everything was so happy-go-lucky, unlike these days. I mean, back then, everybody was walking around smiling, which you know meant that everyone was in a good mood, and nobody was keeping their feelings buried at all. The opening narration to this movie makes absolutely no sense. It's titled Criswell Predicts, and he goes on to say that these future events we're about to see will affect us in the future. But then 5 seconds later, he goes on to say this.
And now for the first time, we are bringing to you the full story of what happened on that fateful day. We are giving you all the evidence based only on the secret testimony of the miserable souls who survived this terrifying ordeal.
So, excuse me, but what? You were just talking about how these events will happen in the future, but then you go on to talk about them in the past tense, as if they already happened. Thought you were predicting that this will happen. Already off the rails here. So the movie starts with Bela Lugosi playing an old man whose wife just died. Now, Bela Lugosi was an actor who probably best known for playing Dracula in the 30s. And Ed Wood was a really big fan of his, so he tried to put him in his movies whenever he could. The only problem was that at that point, Bela Lugosi was heavily addicted to morphine and pretty much on the way out. Anyways, now we have Jeff, who's piloting this plane, when suddenly there's a giant flash of light and a gust of wind or something. Good thing they have these rickety metal flaps to hang on to. Suddenly, they look out the window and see a UFO hanging by a string. Then the UFO goes and, I guess, lands somewhere in a cemetery where these two grave diggers are digging a grave. Then suddenly Vampira appears and, okay, wait, what time of day is it? Is it daytime or nighttime? What the hell's going on here? And I guess this is supposed to be the old man's dead wife. So the old man was married to Vampira. Interesting casting choice, but okay. Suddenly it fades to black and we hear screaming, which I can only assume means that she killed them. Okay, so it's the next day now, I'm assuming, and the old man comes out of his house and then he walks off frame and again. So I'm guessing the old man got hit by a car here, which is kind of strange. I mean, how close does he live to the road? He barely walks out of frame and then we hear him screaming. Look, you can still see his shadow. So they bury him in the crypt. And just check out this dialogue.
First his wife, then he.
Tragic.
Tell me something. Why was his wife buried in the ground and he sealed in a crypt?
Something to do with family tradition, a superstition of some sort.
Oh.
Then, as they're leaving, the woman spots two fake dead bodies that look similar to the gravediggers. And now the police are on the case. They're gonna go, wait, what the hell? Again, this was clearly taking place at night, and now it's suddenly daytime. You're killing me here, Ed. Well, you know what, who knows? Let's give Ed the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they were driving for a really long time. Maybe the cemetery is 10 hours away from the police station. So they arrive at the cemetery. Okay, this is a giant black wall in the middle of the cemetery for some reason. I think this is supposed to make it appear to be at night, but it's clearly a wall. You can see shadows on it. It's almost as if this isn't taking place in a cemetery, but in some kind of a cheap Hollywood set. So this is when Jeff decides to tell his wife Paula about what happened on the flight earlier. Now you're probably thinking, wait, he's just telling her this now? Why wouldn't he tell his wife as soon as he walked through the door? Well, see, again, the 50s were a different time. Men had to be stoic. If you were piloting an aircraft and saw a UFO out the window, you didn't freak out, you didn't panic, you didn't say anything. You straightened your tie, you lit up a new cigarette, you took a sip of whichever kind of alcohol you were enjoying on that flight, and when you got home and your wife asked you how your day was, you'd simply say, good. Day was good. And see, that way, everything's fine, and everybody gets to be happy.
I saw a flying saucer.
Saucer? You mean the kind from up there?
No, from down here. Someone was on the ground throwing dinner plates at the plane. So while Jeff is complaining about having to keep the whole thing a secret, there's another bright light and a giant gust of wind, strong enough to move furniture and knock people over. Which just goes to show that they don't make things like they used to back in the 50s. Because that tea set is not only still standing, it barely budged an inch. Now that is a quality tea set because back in the 50s, things were built to last. They were built to survive pretty much anything. Even winds that could knock people off of their feet. And there goes the UFO. Don't know how they were able to see it so clearly. I thought it was nighttime, Ed. And this is just brilliant. There's so much going on here. It's like the actors didn't know which way to fall because they're all falling in different directions. And these two literally throw the dead body off of the gurney. So the UFO lands in the cemetery and oh my God, the old man is now vampire. I have no idea what's going on here. I can only imagine they made him do this in order to hide his face because this is not Bela Lugosi. The footage that you see in this movie of Bela Lugosi wasn't even originally for this movie. Bela Lugosi died in 1956, so Ed decided, well, I can just splice this footage in here and then use a stand-in to cover his face, and boom. movie magic. Bela Lugosi, who died in '56, appears in a movie from 1959. So the old man and his wife start approaching Inspector Clay. So the inspector does the only logical thing. Just start blasting. I mean, you don't know who these people are. You don't know that they're zombies, but just, oh crap, this guy's covering his face. Bang, bang. Oh no, a woman with a really small waist. I feel threatened. Bang, bang.
Inspector Clay's dead. Murdered. And somebody's responsible. You're in charge now, Lieutenant. Yeah, guess I am. Calvin? Yes, sir? You back up the car and get on the radio. Tell the coroner he's got to make another trip out here.
I'm going to take this time to point out that I don't think gun safety was a very big thing back then. I mean, it looks like this guy is going for the world record of how many times you can casually point a gun at yourself and the people around you with your finger on the trigger. So now the UFOs are everywhere, and the military is involved. They're gonna shoot these things down with rockets, because that seems like a good idea. So the colonel gives the order to fire, which, again, this is weird. Where is he? These guys are firing rockets out on the field, but the colonel is just in front of some kind of a wall. It's almost as if they spliced this footage together with stock footage. That's right. Ed Wood was utilizing stock footage back before it was cool. Before Neil Breen. This is back when Neil was still in diapers, which would have been one more layer of clothing that he's wearing in some of his movies. Seriously though, Ed could have just shot this outside. And put the guy on a roof, shoot it from a low angle, that way you get at least the sky in the background. Anyways, the UFOs fly back to their base, I guess. And, oh, okay, I guess this is inside the base, which is completely covered in curtains. Wow, what a marvel of technology. Look at all this alien equipment. I find it interesting that for such an advanced form of intelligent life, they're still sticking with those pens and paper. So these are the aliens, and I think it's amazing that they look just like regular people. I always thought that would be really funny if that really happened. If aliens landed on Earth, you know, and everybody is waiting to catch a glimpse at them, and they come out of the spaceship and they just look exactly like us. I think it would be exciting, relieving, and disappointing all at the same time. But there are things here that set them apart from the humans, like their shiny clothes, fancy belts, and I can only imagine this is just the logo of the brand that makes the clothing. This is like the alien version of Nike, I assume. And the aliens are like, hey, we contacted the government, but they're just denying our existence. So we're gonna move on to Plan 9. And what is Plan 9, you're probably asking? Well, it's a plan. I wouldn't call it necessarily a good plan, but it is a plan nevertheless. Plan 9 is to raise the dead with their electrode guns, and that way, the humans will finally take them seriously. Seeing aliens from another planet wasn't enough. So Jeff needs to pilot another flight, and his wife says, "No worries, I'll lock the door." Then we see the old man again, dressed as Dracula. Okay, can you tell now that this was shot for a different movie? And once again, this is footage that was taken during a day shoot. Scene takes place at night. So I guess Paula didn't lock the side door because the old man is able to just walk right in, and I'm really not sure what he's supposed to be going for here. Does he want to kill her? Does he want to kidnap her? What are you waiting for? So Paula goes running out into the cemetery because that's probably a good idea. The zombie version of Inspector Clay comes out of his grave, and alright, we're just gonna have to accept the fact that scenes in this movie somehow take place during the day and night simultaneously. There's no escaping it. I can't do this anymore. I mean, this isn't even close. You're literally intercutting shots of a bright sunny day with shots of people shrouded in darkness, and it just keeps going on. So I guess Paula just passed out because reasons. I guess the aliens are watching from their ship, which is parked in the cemetery, and dude, you even put a bright sunny sky with clouds in the background through the window. Either Ed Wood was completely inept at making movies, or this was all on purpose. You know, maybe this is what he intended. He's the original troll. You know, he knew, I'm gonna make this crap, and people are gonna talk about it for 60 years. plus. So I guess the police are back in the cemetery looking around. Of course, Detective Wavy Revolver is there doing what he does best, testing fate with an accidental murder or suicide. This dude just can't help himself. He comes out there like, all right, you guys, make sure you keep an eye out. Because people are mysteriously dying in this cemetery, which means any one of us could be next. It could be you, or you, or even me. Hey, how much you guys want to bet I can fit this there in my mouth? Hey guys, check this out. I got it spinning. Yeah, I learned this yesterday. Oh wait, hang on. I think it works better if you cock back the hammer first. So this general plays a message for the colonel that the aliens sent, and the message basically says humans are stupid and you're gonna develop a weapon that will destroy the universe. So we'll have to destroy you before you destroy us.
Major Carlson will replace you while you're out there. You're the best man for the job of attempting to contact them. Find them, Colonel. See what in hell it is they want.
This is what I find hilarious. The message is basically saying, hey, we want you to acknowledge that we exist and that you understand what we're trying to tell you. And this general is like, I have no idea what they want. Go and make contact with them and find out what you can. Back on the mothership, the alien comes into his office. I'm guessing he just got back from his part-time job at Medieval Times. And he's like, hey, here's an idea. Let's kill the old man. That'll get those humans to take us seriously. And then make more zombies. Yeah. Suddenly everybody feels that something is wrong. There's a weird sound and a horrible smell in the air. And, oh my God, watch out. It's a man in a cape covering his face. It's amazing how everybody just stands there like, wow, the bullets did nothing. I guess there's nothing we can do except stand here and await our fate. Turns out he was just a skeleton. I was scared he was a vampire. So they all drive out to the cemetery to figure out just what in the hell is exactly going on.
Is the girl safe?
Mrs. Trent, you better stay with the car.
Stay here alone? Not on your life.
Modern women. Yeah, they've been that way all down through the ages.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't she just want to stay in the car alone at night? In a cemetery where people have been mysteriously killed recently. So the aliens send out a big zombie, and check out this knockout. Oh no, the dreaded shoulder slap. Well, that guy's as good as dead. Anyways, they come aboard the ship and start having a conversation with the aliens. Eros the alien starts explaining to them that eventually humans will discover a method to explode sunlight particles which will destroy everything. It's just kind of funny that, you know, the aliens are so smart and advanced, but they're too dumb to realize that hurling insults at someone probably isn't the best way to get them on your side.
You see? You're stupid lives. Stupid. That's all I'm taking from you. Get back here, you jerk!
So anyways, they're gonna fight for a while. The colonel goes and starts twisting dials because that's what you want to do on an alien spacecraft. So they get out of there as the ship starts going up in flames and they take off with the whole ship on fire.
We gotta hand it to them though, they're far ahead of us.
Yes, so far ahead. I guess the aliens were too busy inventing technology to create zombies that they never had the time to invent a fire extinguisher. At the end of the movie, it also goes back to Criswell, who asks us if we can prove that these events didn't happen. Well, no, I can't. I thought you were predicting that this stuff was going to happen in the future. Now, this movie was originally called Grave Robbers from Outer Space, but they changed the name because apparently two of the backers of the film were ministers, and they felt that grave robbing was sacrilegious. They didn't want that in the title. You may also be wondering, if this was Plan 9, What were plans 1 through 8? Well, I don't know. None of us know. I guess we'll never know. Just another mystery of cinema. This movie is just such a hilarious debacle. And honestly, this is why I love this type of stuff. There's a charm to it that is just unlike anything else. So, I hope you guys had as much fun watching this video as I did watching this video. And as usual, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about a movie from 1965. That's right, the 60s. A time of... Hey guys, welcome back to the show. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about a movie from 1965. That's right, the 60s. A time of drugs, free love, apparently. Now you might be thinking, wow, that sounds really cool. I'd like to take a break from 2020 and go back to that for a bit, right? But here's the thing. There was still a lot of stuff that people had to worry about. Dangerous things. I'm talking, of course, about jellyfish. Sure, in 1969 they put a man on the moon, but they still failed to solve a problem that has plagued us ever since the dawn of man, really. The jellyfish problem. Actually, the funny thing is, I went to Australia a few years ago, and before I left, I made the mistake of watching this documentary on the Irukandji jellyfish, and that just scared the crap out of me. This thing is so small, it's almost invisible, and the sting can either kill you or just leave you writhing in agony for days on end. So of course my anxiety was just like, well, great going, Mark, you're gonna die. You're gonna go over there, you're gonna die. Nice vacation. But instead, it turned out to be one of the most amazing places I've ever been to. And the only thing that really happened to me over there was got some salt water on my eyes. That kind of stung. That's pretty much it. But getting back to the problem at hand, jellyfish. And not just jellyfish, but the people that keep them, breed them, and maybe even love them. If you're confused, don't worry, because you'll know exactly what I'm talking about by the time you reach the end of this video, which is on Sting of Death. The movie starts abruptly with this disgusting hand picking up a screwdriver and using it to short out some electronics. And you can tell that's what's happening because of this clever graphic being thrown at you. It actually reminds me of this movie from the 70s called Earthquake. So at one point in the movie, there's these people and they're in an elevator, and the elevator plummets to the ground. And just to show that everybody got killed in the elevator, the movie just throws this graphic up on the screen. I love that. It's just like the movie's like, blood! So now we have this young lady doing some sunbathing on the dock. But here comes the person wearing the filthy scuba suit. And just look at them, covered in filth, stumbling around with these disgusting beads as if it's the morning after Mardi Gras. She's just trying to enjoy herself, putting on some sunscreen. But, oh God, no! Well, this is just a terrible tragedy. Because you're supposed to wait 15 minutes after applying sunscreen before going into the water. You gotta let it soak in. I can't stress that enough, people. You gotta let it soak in. And now, because of this, it's probably gonna wash off, putting her at risk of getting a sunburn, which can then lead to a whole laundry list of health problems, such as dry skin, itching, wrinkles, skin cancer, and that's all I got written down on here. I wanted to make this really long so that it'd be really dramatic, but that's all I got. These aren't even real glasses. So there's nothing actually in here. Anyways, suddenly the mysterious swimmer pulls her under, and that's the end of her. Just like in Jaws. Which I'd like to point out, came out 10 years after this movie, and did a better job at pretty much everything. So now
Hey,
we have
how's it going?
Karen Richardson and her friends visiting Dr. Richardson, that's her dad, on this island where he studies marine biology. Now you'll probably notice this black mark on his forehead, and you're probably going to assume it's skin cancer. Maybe Dr. Richardson has been getting too much sun, but they actually have an explanation for it.
Dad, that's a nasty bump on your head.
It's very strange, Karen.
I'm alright.
The equipment out of the lab.
I'm a little
And while I
tired.
was looking for it, an amplifier fell out of one of the cabinets and hit me on the forehead.
I think what happened here is the actor, you know, banged his head or got a bump or something like that, and they just had to write in an explanation into the
I don't
script,
know.
because
I'm just
otherwise
tired.
It would just be...
I did do a lot of shit this morning.
They start talking about Ruth, who was the
I
girl
just-
out on the dock at the beginning of the movie.
Real
When
busy
John,
this morning.
The other doctor working with Dr. Richardson shows up.
Your bags are up in Karen's room, girls. Hey, where's Ruth? She'll miss all the fun.
We were just wondering, what fun are you talking about?
Well, we've invited some people to come over this afternoon, a kind of...
It's been a slow day, not a whole lot of people coming in.
So then Egon shows up, and he's so quiet that he ends up startling some of the girls.
Girls, Egon is one of the best swimmers I've ever seen. Oh, you're cute. Would you be my date for the party? Louise, be kind. He's a friend of mine.
Egon is a very good worker, Louise. I don't know what I'd do without him.
Oh, I didn't mean any harm. He just
Let's
scared
just
me.
drop it, Louise.
So then Bob the sheriff shows up and is like, hey, look at this dead body we found. Do you think it's possible?
Oh, I just had a
these
bunch
are
of chores to
jellyfish
do.
things?" And Egon is like, yup, but Dr. Richardson says
I
no,
last
it's
week,
not possible
last
for them
week
to
I
get
hadn't
that
really been cleaning my
And the guy was
apartment
like,
or
"Yes,
doing
they
laundry
can
or
get that
anything.
big."
I tried to tell
So
you this.
I had to get all that stuff done today.
Now, Egon. What's this nut talking about, Doc? I never can understand him. It's nothing, Bob.
Hey, how about instead of just shutting Egon down, you at least entertain the idea that it might be possible these are jellyfish stings? Either that or come up with another explanation. How about that? But you can't, because you don't have another explanation, do you, Mr. Marine Biologist?
We've tried to raise them in captivity, but they begin to die within an hour or so. Egon thinks you can breed them like cattle. You know Egon.
Yeah, I also know that Egon is standing right there. You're just gonna talk about him as if he's not 5 feet away from you? See, now this is the type of treatment that could lead somebody to go mad. You know? Get really crazy and create some kind of a, I don't know, machine to turn them into some kind of half man, half jellyfish type creature. Or something like that. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. So now it's party time. Dr. Richardson invited a bunch of students over to have a good time with Karen and her friends. But holy crap, these people are already way too drunk and they haven't even docked the boat yet. See, now that's where I draw the line. Right there. You want to dance, you want to party, you want to have a good time, fall off boats, fine, whatever. But who's gonna clean that up? That bottle could be returned for a refund. So I guess we're just gonna go ahead and act like that didn't happen. We're just gonna party it up on the dock. And I understand it was a different time. And in retrospect, you know, all dances kind of look ridiculous. But I do appreciate just how simplistic some of these dances are. Especially this one, you know, the monkey. Like, at some point, somebody thought, wow, this is really creative and original. So then they spot Egon and decide, hey, he looks slightly different than us. Let's gang up on him and, I don't know exactly, form a circle around him and laugh. Which seems pretty childish, but then, again, you don't know how old these people are. People looked a lot older back then, you know? They could all be 12 years old for all we know. Which might sound crazy, but remember, this is the 60s. Back then, people had to grow up faster, you know? It's probably like get a job at, I don't know, 13, buy a house at 14, start a family at 15, and by, you know, 17, 18, you're off to whatever war was going on at the time. Also, I have to mention, the movie did a really good job at vilifying these people. because these are some of the most punchable faces I've ever seen. So Egon takes off in his fan boat while the others celebrate their achievement of making someone feel even worse about themselves.
Without going into a big deal, I want to apologize. Well, I'm really sorry about the incident with Egon.
Oh, forget it. I know they mean it. It's just that they don't consider his feelings.
Just curious, how did they mean well? You know, just looking back at this, I'm going to be honest, I don't think they meant well. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say I think they meant to hurt his feelings. Yeah, I'll go there. You know, I'm not afraid to admit, when I was a kid, in school, I got picked on a lot, because, you know, kids are dicks. But sometimes those kids would get caught, and honestly, I don't ever remember any of them ever saying to the teacher, well, you know, I meant well, and it looks like the dirty diver is back, going into the swimming pool, a giant black mass, swimming around in the clear water that no one seems to notice, probably because they're all too busy dancing to this brand new swinging single called Do the Jellyfish.
It isn't funky or anything is junky. It's something sweller, the killer jellyfish. Hey!
I'm actually curious if anybody got knocked out going to a dance party in the 60s, because all of these dances seem to be the perfect recipe for uppercuts and slaps, and headbutts. So anyways, this sequence goes on a really long time, like with a lot of the movies I cover on this show. This musical sequence lasts the entire length of the song.
You'd better rest a minute to cool off.
Oh, that's a great idea. I think I'll cool off in the pool.
You better not, Louise. You're overheated.
What does that mean? Let her go cool off in the pool. Oh, no, wait, you're overheated. You're too hot. Better not go into the pool when you're that hot. Otherwise, you'll evaporate all the water, and all that will be left is a chlorine gas that will kill everyone in the vicinity. Anyways, Louise goes into the pool, and again, nobody, not even her, manages to see this person in a black diving suit in the pool with her. So this goes on for a really long time until this hand comes out of nowhere, grabs her in the face, pulls her under the water, and no one notices this until it's too late. Then, as John jumps in to rescue her, suddenly, I guess the mysterious swimmer comes out of the pool, and that's when everyone notices them. The swimmer touches this guy in the face, and I guess they're both suffering from horrible giant jellyfish stings to the face now, which I guess means that this person is some kind of giant jellyfish human monster with flippers. So all the students get into the boat and take this guy to the hospital, but the jellyfish man has other plans and an axe, which he uses to, I'm not exactly sure, I think cause a leak in the boat, but that seems to be the least of their problems.
Jellyfish!
There's more of them.
They're all over.
They're attacking.
Honestly, I thought those were just little bags of trash. Which would be kind of poetic, considering what happened when they got there. But anyways, I guess these out-of-focus plastic bags with balloons in them are now attacking everyone. But I have to say, you gotta give the filmmaker some credit here, because honestly, especially back then, I really don't know how else you would have done this. It's just unfortunate that in the end, it really does just look, it looks like floating garbage. As if everyone died in some kind of sandwich bag massacre. In all seriousness though, modern day visual effects, you know, they could make this look better, but they could also make it look much worse, as we've seen before. So now the jellyfish monster fiddles with some knobs on some kind of machine, and oh my god, it's Egon! Totally didn't see that coming. Especially since the last time we saw him, he was wearing the same wetsuit. So after dinner, Karen decides to go over to the window and look at the beautiful rocks. And somehow, I don't know, her and John have fallen in love. I guess they really got to know each other over the dancing and dying. Anyways, they all go on a very long trip through the Everglades to find Egon.
Egon? Egon, can you hear me?
Could he be over there?
That's all swamp and quicksand.
Okay, so when I was a kid, I had a fear of quicksand. And I don't think it was my fault because for some reason, quicksand seemed to appear in a lot of cartoons. I even had a board game where the whole objective was to not die in quicksand. It was called Quicksand. So with all these things combined, I was certain that at some point in my life, I was gonna have to deal with quicksand. Probably on multiple occasions. And to this date, I have yet to see it in real life. Anyways, they go inside Egon's shack, but he's not there. So Donna goes out to get her cigarettes from the boat. But she gets distracted by some plants and birds. Little does she know that Egon, in full jellyfish form, is watching. And look, here he comes. Looks like Donna is done for, as she doesn't seem to notice him at all. Not even out of her peripheral vision. Not until he's directly in front of her. See, now this is a good lesson as to why you should carry cigarettes on you at all times, everywhere you go. If Donna didn't leave her cigarettes on the boat, she'd probably still be alive today. Maybe. Probably not. Yeah, she'd be pretty old. Or, she would have died from the side effects of smoking. So really, this is a lesson as to why you shouldn't smoke at all. You shouldn't start smoking. If you have started, don't stop smoking. Smoke all the time, everywhere you go. It's one of the two. Pick one of the extremes, people. I can't make these decisions for you. Anyways, the Everglades prove to be too difficult to navigate for Donna, and she becomes the latest victim of the Jellyfish Man monster. Which, quite honestly, I'm actually impressed that Egon was able to maintain this chase. Because, just look at him. How do you even see out of that thing? So they all hear Donna scream and decide to go look for her, which could make them all potential victims of the Jellyfish Man. But don't worry, because by the looks of it, Dr. Richardson is packing heat. See, there's a gun right there. So they all go out searching for Donna, and even search underwater, where somehow Jessica fails to see the giant jellyfish monster right in front of her. Seriously, this has been a running theme throughout this whole movie. How do you not see this thing? So anyways, John and Dr. Richardson try to fix the broken radio while Egon looks after Karen.
I had to do it, Miss Karen. They were no good.
Egon, why are you acting this way? Now just stay away.
I had to do it, Miss Karen. They were no good.
Egon, what are you saying?
Karen, for the love of God, are you deaf? They were no good. So when she finally realizes what Egon is saying, she faints and Egon kidnaps her, and what happens next is a long chase through the Everglades where Egon gets away and takes her to his, I don't know, underground lair. And this is where Egon has his bad guy moment where he reveals everything about how he ran electricity from the island underwater and into this cave and built a machine that combines salt water, electricity, human blood, and chemicals that he stole from the lab in order to create this
All right, I'm gonna log out and take a nap.
and also turn
I'm too
himself
tired to be
into a
playing.
giant jellyfish